Here are 3 different designs for a Subaru turbo exhaust wheel. Here's the standard 9-blade exhaust wheel. Here's a lightweight 9-blade, and first off, there's a couple of differences you can see between the two. This has a smaller center nut compared to the standard factory center nut. So there's going to be so much room inside a turbo, and the exhaust can only escape through the opening about this distance, right? And in order to move more air, the idea is to shrink the smaller nut in the center so that you can have more airflow that comes through this distance. So it's probably maybe an extra 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, maybe, if you're lucky. This is also a 9-blade, like I said. Right here is kind of a special blade. This is a 5+5, so you can see that it's got a couple of smaller exhaust fins. These blades catch different volumes of air and different temperatures at different rates. But this also has a little bit longer curvature. I'd say it's almost maybe 3 millimeters, another 1/8 inch or so on this longest blade. It also extends a little bit longer, maybe another 1/8 inch or so. Anyways, I've been trying to assemble a set to put into this center section, and I've assembled it maybe 4 or 5 different times incorrectly. And I finally, I scoured the internet. I tried to find some type of tutorial or how-to that explained, but there is a very specific way that all of these parts go together. And as far as I can tell, nobody has posted anything about it, so I thought I'd try to do the community a favor. So here's the center section. It sits inside this housing right here, and there's like little dots that match up. There's one here, and one here. And on the face, it has a little notch in the same orientation, the same pattern. So basically, when putting this center section into the carrier, you just line up those holes. All right, so, but first, I want to run through how this center section gets put together, because there's 2 sets of bearings. One is bigger than the other, and they both have orientation. So there's kind of an area that sticks out a little bit more than one side. So I just want to make sure that those are directional. Another one we have here is this tapered ring. This spacer also has, I don't know if I can get it up there. There's a tiny little hole right there, and that also needs to be lined up. That's also, all right, and that needs to be lined up on the opposing side of this hole. This is where oil comes. This is where oil leaves. So we want to flood the area and have this trickle down. So we want to put that little dot the opposite way of this, because then it would be facing down, and then it would still be how the oil goes through this channel and then fills up this section, and then it exhausts itself out. All right. Anyways, just want to, oh, dang it. This is definitely one of the harder pieces sometimes to work with, because this stuff is machined so tightly together. Anyways, all right, so the first thing you want to do is start with that tapered ring, and the other ring that maybe I didn't mention, that's just a solid spacer ring, right? That's for the top. So this is the top, or the face that would be showing, you'd be looking at when it's inside the housing. All right, when the housing is paste on its base. All right, so you want to hit from the back side, and we want to put in that oil ring first. Oh man, it's so tight. All right. Okay. Then we want to hit the small spacer, or the small bearing, excuse me, is what goes into the backside. All right, so they got the small spacer, or small bearing, the big bearing. All right, you want to put that with the little bit longer section of the bearing, like I talked about earlier, needs to face into the center section, because when there's pressure applied from putting this all together, they need to apply in the same direction. Jeez, that's tough. All right, then hold it upside down, or right side up at this point. Put the spring inside of it, put the spacer down inside of it, and then this one got me for a while. This bearing, as you can see, it's got that one longer side. The longer side needs to face inwards. All right, so both of the flatter sections of the bearing are showing. I don't know if I'm hoping I'm showing that right. It's the flat side. There's the flat side, not the deeper side. All right, I'm just gonna mock one up so that it, let me put that together. This is not how you do it. Okay, so you've got it together. Get that forced down, and then one of these rings goes over the top of it, and this is part of the, this is a oil control ring for the front side of the turbo. All right, put that together. I'm just gonna mock up this blade. I'll kind of demonstrate. I mean, don't be afraid to hold this thing like you mean it. You don't want it to fall apart on you. So it's loosely under tension, right? I'm just gonna tighten it up by hand. I'm holding the front side. Okay, now I'm feeling some tension. I'm gonna give it a nice little tight tug, and then I'm gonna, to demonstrate how the ball bearing spins a little bit, the reason why everybody likes a ball bearing turbo instead of a journal bearing turbo, it spins. If you do it right, and put all the pieces in correctly, she spins nice. Now, if you kind of can hear, I don't know if you can hear it, but it does make a little bit of a hissing sound. I don't know, like wheels, like balls rolling, basically, little tiny balls rolling. And when the engine is, or when it's in operation, and this thing is spinning at whatever RPM, it does make like a weird whining noise. And if you've never had a ball bearing turbo on a daily driver, it's definitely different. You know, it's kind of like a supercharger whine almost. So yeah, that's it. You know, as long as you put these pieces together in the correct orientation, then you can start to stick it into the housing, which is what I'm going to do next. So first you have to start with these two pieces. You got the center cartridge, or the, gosh, I don't know, the casting, all right? And then you put the dust cover, goes on next. Now this also, I've done this a million different ways, and in case, don't be intimidated, and trust me, this is the easiest way to do it, okay? Because I've made like custom little tongs to try to squeeze this little control ring together, this oil ring, in order to fit into this inside diameter, which can be really, really difficult. Another thing too is these bearings, when this comes up, when you get an aftermarket exhaust wheel, this section where the bearings ride on will not, they'll be, the tolerance between them will be so tight, you won't be able to slide anything on. I have one of those mini lathes from Harbor Freight, and I put it in the lathe, and then I took a 400 grit sandpaper and put it on a flat piece of aluminum, and then just kind of held it against there for maybe like 5 seconds, took it out of the lathe, you know, test fit it. It was still like, so it's still really tight, but it's, you know, when you get it first out of the box, they will not fit together, I promise. And like I said, you got to make sure that these bearings, another big, like if you don't do this correctly, if you don't put it together correctly, the bearings have 2 different sides. And like I said, that flat side needs to be facing the outside. And the big bearing actually goes on the front side where the compressor wheel is. All right, so anyways, so like back to what I was saying. So we got the casting cartridge. All right, sidetrack. I kind of put this in so that I can see the oil control rings, or the gap between it, and I like kind of line it up in that hole, and then I tilt it towards myself, or towards that gap, so that it shrinks easily, and now it's in. Okay. All right. So then I hold it, whatever, you can do it however you want, but like this is probably the easiest way. You actually start by loading the this shaft right here. So little bearing first, the raised part, not the flat part down, raised part up. All right, get it in there. All right. And then cone facing down. Remember, this thing has a little eyelet to leak. All right. Then the 3 pieces with the big drain hole facing down. Slide all that together. Slide it in the hole. Spring. Big bearing that has the, now I switch sides and put the flat side facing up and the raised part facing down. Oops, hold on, my bad. This first, spacer first, so that the spring doesn't ride against the plastic on the inside of there. Spacer first, big ring, all right. And then push this, oops, oh, you suck. All right, first line up that little hole, and then you have this little tiny scoop, it's like a little, little piece of metal that you gotta kind of move around till you get it to sit flat. All right, just like that. Hopefully you can see that. All right, this stuff is, these spacers and this stuff isn't even connected. Then I take, oh man, I'm actually gonna hold it like that. I need the center section off of this one. And remember, these are reverse thread, so in order to put the bolt on the end, you gotta reverse thread it. All right, need that. All right, put that in. Oh, put that in. See, I got everything lined up. All right, nothing's been pushed together yet. Now, there's one last thing. Here's the final piece to the puzzle. All right, it's just a flat ring, okay? But it's a tapered ring. It's got a tapered side right there on that side. I've installed it actually once like this, thinking that this was some kind of oil ring of sorts to like help oil stay and lubricate that area, but I was wrong. So it goes face down. All right, so I've got them all stacked up like that. I put this back. Oh, excuse me, not face down, face up. There we go. All right, and then I squish all that together. And I get my, oh, I'm hitting the camera. All right. Make sure you get it nice and flat. Alright. Alright, everything should still be movable. But since it's under a little bit of pressure at this point, see, it also should also move down a little bit, like that. I don't know, like just a little bit. So it relieves a little bit of tension off of it. Alright, and then the next step is to put the brace on, and that you line up all those holes, and then once the everything's bolted down, you have to put a layer of silicone on this face and then shove it down, tighten all the bolts, put on your aftermarket wheel. This is what I thought was pretty cool. It's 18G. It's a little bit bigger, obviously, than the stock wheel. Maybe even a little bit lighter. Once that's together, you can kind of see that, you know, see if I can, if it'll let me anyways. Is that reverse thread? Oh, oh, oh. There's a million ways to do it, but that's the right one. So once you put it all together, it'll be a great running turbo that you won't have to worry about. It'll give you nice spoolie noises whenever you want. All right, guys, that's it.